I'm Adrian Seet, and this is Nightline, news making the headlines.
Tourism is one such sector that can benefit.
World Bank upgrades Malaysia's 2022 GDP growth forecast. And sewerage tariffs for Peninsular Malaysia, Labuan to be streamlined. Thank you for joining us. The World Bank has revised upward its GDP growth forecast for Malaysia to 6.4% this year versus 5.5% earlier. The positive revision is driven by heightened economic activity recorded in the first half of the year.
Services and goods that are that have a cost in ringgit and getting revenues in dollars, given the Malaysian ringgit US dollar exchange rate, should receive a boost. So what are these services? Well, if you think of tourism is one such sector that can benefit from what's going on, as well as commodity exports, so they should receive a boost.
The bank, however, revised downward the country's GDP growth estimate for next year to 4.2% from 4.5% earlier. Malaysia's export demand may be adversely affected due to the Ukraine war and the slowdown in China, which is the country's largest direct trading partner. Meanwhile, Sangi opines the move by Bank Negara to hike the overnight policy rate OPR to 2.5% is normal, as it is still below pre-COVID rate. He added that Malaysia needs to maintain a certain spread between the US Fed funds rate and the OPR to avoid triggering capital outflows if the spread is too wide. Now, the World Bank's upward revision of Malaysia's GDP growth forecast for 2022 signifies a more certain outlook for the country's economy in the year as a whole. Economist Professor Jeffrey Williams said this was also based on Malaysia's strong GDP growth figures during the first 2 quarters of the year, driven by consumer expenditure reduction in unemployment, as well as the reopening of the economy.
And basically, the economy has been getting back on its feet. There have also been some policy issues, for example, in the SST on cars, which ended at the end of June, and that caused people to buy their car earlier in the year. And that's pushed the growth in the first half to really very solid levels. So even if the economy doesn't grow very much at all during the second half of the year, the overall growth figure for Malaysia for 2022 will certainly be in the range of about 5 to 6%. And that's much better than we had thought.
However, Professor Williams believed that it might be difficult for Malaysia to sustain the strong GDP performance going into 2023, as there might be a contradiction in global growth due to the uncertain outlook for the world's economy next year. Due to this, he said the upcoming Budget 2023 needs to deliver a very solid response and avoid populist measures, as the government needs to find a stable approach to fiscal policy so that it is not conflicting with monetary policy.
If the government raises the overall level of government spending and then produces a long list of projects for voter groups running up to an expected election, then the financial markets may not view that very positively. And it may put further pressure on Bank Negara to increase interest rates more aggressively. At the moment, Bank Negara is raising interest rates very slowly toward a normal level, and we're really quite close to that. But if there are problems with the international financial markets, Malaysia won't be in a position to do very much in terms of protection of the ringgit.
3 associations representing the local banking industry are in full support of the 5 key measures to combat financial scams, as announced by Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) on Monday. However, they pointed out that the implementation of these measures may lead to changes in customers' online banking experiences and expectations. In a joint statement on Tuesday, the Association of Banks in Malaysia, Association of Islamic Banking and Financial Institutions Malaysia and the Association of Development Finance Institutions Malaysia said the online banking transactions could potentially take a slightly longer duration due to added security measures and checks. In view of this, the banking associations requested for the customers' patience and understanding on the expected delays and inconvenience that they may face once these measures are implemented. The banks noted that these measures are crucial for the added safety and security of their customers. They also said that their member banks are also committed to ensuring proper communication with customers in relation to the above measures, including the implementation dates for the various measures. The 5 key measures include migrating from SMS one-time password OTP to a more secure authentication method, such as via secure multi-factor authentication software or hardware tokens for certain transactions, including fund transfers and payments. Other measures include tightening the bank's fraud detection rules and triggers for the blocking of suspicious transactions, verification and cooling off period for first-time enrollment of e-banking services or secure device. The bank associations also reminded customers to remain vigilant at all times when transacting online, including following online banking safety tips. The tariff for connected sewerage services and emptying septic tanks for the domestic category in Peninsular Malaysia and Labuan will be streamlined and subjected to additional charges. The Environment and Water Ministry, in a statement on Tuesday, said the matter was decided at a cabinet meeting last April 20th. According to the ministry, the tariff adjustment will involve an increase of between 5 to 8 ringgit per month for the service of emptying septic tanks with effect from Saturday. For connected services, there will be a small increase of 2 ringgit per month with effect from January the 1st next year. The ministry also said targeted assistance will be provided to ease the people's burden by giving rebates to those registered with the eKasih program. Presently, the average cost per month for providing connected sewerage services is 17 ringgit compared to the current tariff rate, which is between 2 and 8 ringgit, while the actual cost of the septic tank emptying service is 22 ringgit per month, compared to the current tariff rate of between 2 and 6 ringgit per month. Since the sewerage service was taken over by Indah Water Consortium Sdn Bhd (IWK) in 1994, the sewerage tariff has never been reviewed. This has affected the National Sewerage Company's cash flow, where the income cannot cover its operating costs, which increases every year. The tariff adjustment, however, will enable IWK to provide an effective and efficient service, as well as reduce sewerage pollution on water sources and support environmental sustainability. Malaysia's ties with the United Arab Emirates, UAE, will be elevated to a strategic partnership. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said this will pave the way for collaborations in the economy, investment and trade, renewable energy, food security and oil and gas, amongst others.
Walaupun kita mempunyai hubungan diplomatik yang lama sejak daripada UAE mencapai kemerdekaan pada tahun 1971, tetapi ianya merupakan hubungan biasa walaupun mesra, dan dengan status terkini tentang hubungan yang semakin rapat antara UAE dengan Malaysia, kami bersetuju untuk meningkatkan level hubungan tersebut kepada perkongsian strategik ataupun strategic partnership.
Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said this to Malaysian media at a press conference in Abu Dhabi on Tuesday. The matter was discussed by the Prime Minister when he met UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan at Qasr Al Shati in the capital city on Monday. On food security, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri offered the UAE reciprocal investments in the field of agriculture in line with the country's plans to become an export hub. For this purpose, both leaders agreed to form a joint working committee to discuss the details, to support the food security policy of both countries and help the UAE become a food hub in the Middle East. The Prime Minister also said that Malaysia is weighing up the option to import fertilizers from the UAE. During his visit to the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, ADNOC, also on Monday, Dato Sri Ismail Sabri was informed that the company was not only involved in oil and gas, but also in other economic activities such as fertilizer production. Both countries also agreed to expand bilateral investment and trade. For the first 8 months of 2022, the value of trade between Malaysia and the UAE increased by 90.4%, which is 25.60 billion ringgit, exceeding the total value in 2021, which was 22.29 billion ringgit. Meanwhile, Dato Sri Ismail Sabri said that Malaysia has invited the UAE to participate in the Bandar Malaysia Development Project in Kuala Lumpur. According to the Prime Minister, during his meeting with Sheikh Mohammed, Dato Sri Ismail Sabri had informed the UAE President about the development of Bandar Malaysia, which was done in several phases and packages.
Kabinet bersetuju untuk revisit dari segi pembangunan dan package akan ditentukan. Dan kalau boleh kita nak supaya dari segi prinsipnya kita nak lebih ramai pihak yang terlibat di dalam package tersebut tidak dikuasai oleh satu atau dua syarikat. Jadi modelnya berbeza.
He added that the Finance Ministry and the Economic Planning Unit, EPU, in the Prime Minister's department were currently discussing the development proposals and will finalize the packages involved in the project. Dato Sri Ismail Sabri, who arrived in Abu Dhabi on Monday morning for a 4-day working visit, also expressed his appreciation for UAE's donation of $6 million for the Sheikh Zayed Al Nahyan Chair at the Institute of Strategic and International Studies, or ISIS, Malaysia. The chair was established to promote universal peace through research, international conferences and dialogues. Senior Defence Minister Dato Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein is confident that the mobilisation of the Littoral Combat Ship LCS project will be completed by the end of this year as scheduled. He said he would announce the full details of the mobilisation development soon.
Kalau tak salah saya, dalam beberapa hari lagi kita akan keluarkan kenyataan apa yang kita dah lakukan dalam proses mobilisasi. Saya harap hujung tahun proses mobilisasi ini telah dapat memenuhi semua kehendak kita dan kita boleh melihat kepada proses pembinaan kapal pertama.
Speaking at a media conference after visiting the Tuanku Mizan Armed Forces Hospital in Wangsa Maju, he said his ministry has succeeded in restoring ties with the local and foreign project suppliers and vendors, and the Defence Ministry, MINDEF, has also begun discussions with banks involved in the project after the government decided that the LCS construction project should go on. In the meantime, the Health and Defence Ministries will draw up a new framework to optimise the use of their assets. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said this followed the result of the good cooperation between the two ministries in managing the COVID-19 pandemic previously.
Contohnya di Had Mizan ada keperluan sumber manusia yang mungkin boleh ditampung oleh Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia. Mungkin ada peralatan dan juga jentera yang ada di kawasan pedalaman, yang ada pada ATM, yang tak ada pada KKM, yang boleh kita deploy apabila diperlukan.
Khairi said this in a media conference after a visit to Tuanku Mizan Armed Forces Hospital with Senior Defence Minister Dato Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein. He also said the cooperation between both ministries, which existed previously, should be taken to a higher level with a clear mission through a new framework. On the monsoon season, the Health Minister noted that both ministries were already prepared in facing floods towards the end of the year. The National Recovery Council, NRC, hopes that through the 2023 budget, the government will present balanced and effective measures to control the rise in inflation. Its chairman, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, said overcoming the fall of the value of the ringgit, stimulating economic growth and helping the people who are in need should also be prioritized.
Saya harap Perdana Menteri dan kerajaan memberikan tumpuan utama pada usaha melaksanakan langkah-langkah yang lebih berkesan untuk memulihkan ekonomi negara dengan lebih cepat dan meringankan beban rakyat, terutamanya akibat kenaikan harga barang dan kadar inflasi.
Tan Sri Muhyiddin said this in a media conference after chairing the NRC meeting in Putrajaya. He added that so far 86 of the NRC's recommendations had been approved by the Cabinet, while 9 were awaiting the Cabinet's decision. He pointed out that 69 of those recommendations were related to major issues that had an impact on the economy and social recovery, while 26 recommendations were related to administrative affairs. Tan Sri Muhyiddin also said that the Council only acted as an advisory body to the government and that the power to implement those recommendations lay with the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. After the break, Vietnam braces for Super Typhoon Noru. Stay with us. News from the foreign front. Vietnam has imposed a curfew and ordered hundreds of thousands of people to evacuate their homes as Super Typhoon Noru is set to hit the country's central region. Authorities said the storm, one of the biggest to hit the country, forced almost half of Vietnam's airports to shut, schools and offices across several central provinces to close, with residents rushing to find shelter before the expected arrival of the typhoon on Wednesday. After slamming into the Philippines earlier this week, where it killed at least 8 people, Noru is predicted to make landfall as a super typhoon before 11 a.m. local time and then subside to a severe typhoon as it makes its way inland. Vietnam's Flood and Storm Control Authority said wind speeds would reach 160 kilometers per hour, equaling Typhoon Giang Sin, which hit Da Nang in 2006 and killed 76 people. In Bangladesh, rescuers have recovered more bodies on Tuesday from an overloaded boat with religious pilgrims that capsized in the Panchagath district, pushing the death toll to 66. Officials said at least 50 more people were still unaccounted for, and of those killed, 30 were women and 17 were children. It was reported that some of the children killed were as young as 4 years old. Currently, rescue workers, including firefighters, Navy divers and villagers, were searching for miles downstream on the Karotoa River where the tragedy occurred. In the incident late on Sunday, about 100 pilgrims were crossing the river in Boda to celebrate a religious festival in a temple when their boat overturned. The death toll was the worst for a maritime disaster in the country since 2015, when at least 78 people died after an overcrowded ferry collided with a cargo vessel in a river west of the capital, Dhaka. NASA's DART spacecraft has successfully slammed into a distant asteroid at hypersonic speed on Monday in the world's first test of a planetary defense system designed to prevent a potential doomsday meteorite collision with Earth. The Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART impactor, hit its target space rock Dimorphos 10 months after blasting off from California on its pioneering mission. Dimorphos, a 160-meter asteroid roughly comparable in size to an Egyptian pyramid, orbits near its big brother called Didymos. Although the pair of asteroids pose no threat to our planet, as they loop the Sun every 2 of our years, NASA has deemed the experiment important to carry out before an actual need is discovered. By striking Dimorphos head-on, NASA hopes to push it into a smaller orbit, shaving 10 minutes off the time it takes to encircle Didymos, which is currently 11 hours and 55 minutes.
Pasukan berentap demi menjulang Piala Idaman. Kami bawakan kepada anda perlawanan tumpuan Liga Super 2022. Hanya di TV 9 dan Astro 149.
We're back with sports. Tennis, the Korea Open. British number 2 Dan Evans continued his losing streak against Japan's Yoshihito Nishioka with a straight-set defeat. In the match that lasted 1 hour and 49 minutes, Nishioka, who capitalized on a dropped serve in the first game, won 6-2, 7-6, 7-3 in the first round in Seoul. Nishioka will next face either Taro Daniel or Emilio Gomez in the round of 16. The 27-year-old has already beaten Evans in Miami and Washington this year. 32-year-old Evans, ranked 25 in the world, has lost all 6 of his meetings with Nishioka, who is 31 places lower. In another match, American Jensen Brooksby showed a great resolve in his victory over qualifier Wu Tung Lin at the Seoul Olympic Park. Brooksby, who is seeded 8th in Seoul, sealed a 7-6, 3-6, 6-love victory in the first round of the ATP 250 event. Wu showed a lot of fight in the 2.5-hour battle, although he ultimately succumbed to the quality of Brooksby. Brooksby, ranked 46, will next play Sun Woo Kwon, who earlier beat Yoon Seong Chung 7-6, 6-7, 6-1. Up next, construction worker dies in KL building mishap. Stay tuned. Welcome back. A 35-year-old Bangladeshi construction worker was found dead under the rubble of concrete that collapsed on the 51st floor of a building under construction at Oxley Tower, Jalan Ampang in Kuala Lumpur early on Tuesday. According to the City Fire and Rescue Department's Operations Centre, a team was sent to the scene after it received a distress call at 12:23 a.m. The firemen arrived at the scene. They found that there had been a concrete collapse on the 51st floor of the building, which was still under construction, and a victim was underneath it. Firefighters had to cut and break the concrete to remove the victim. The victim was finally removed from under the rubble at 7:21 a.m. However, the victim was pronounced dead by a medical team at the scene before the body was handed over to the police for further action. In Johor, a former special officer to an ex-Johor Menteri Besar pleaded not guilty in the Johor Bahru Sessions Court to a charge of forging a salary slip 4 years ago for the purpose of cheating. Khairul Anwar Daud, aged 50, made the plea before Judge Dato Ahmad Kamal Arifin Ismail. He is alleged to have forged his Firefly Sdn Bhd salary slip for the month of May 2018, amounting to nearly 16,000 ringgit, with the intention of using the forged document for the purpose of cheating. He allegedly committed the offence in Menara Komta in Johor Bahru between June 26, 2018 and July 10, 2018, and was charged under the Penal Code, which provides a jail term of up to 7 years and a fine if found guilty. The judge allowed bail at 10,000 ringgit with one surety, and also ordered the accused to surrender his passport to the court, as well as to report himself to the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC Johor Bahru in the office every month. The court then set November 21st for mention. The Australian squad will eat, sleep and train at the Aspire Academy in Doha as they give their all to hoist their first World Cup trophy in Qatar when the competition gets underway in November. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a peek at the behind the scenes of the accommodation that the Aussies will call home during the Cup. With that, I'm Adrian Seet. Thank you for watching and have a pleasant week ahead.